Welcome back to Introduction to Management. This is the second section of our course, and I am Ludmila Neagu. Now, let's continue our talk about management, its evolution, and its main principles. Now, we're going to start looking at the manager as a person. We're going to look at the values, attitude, ethics, and culture that form and at time dictate the things we have just mentioned. The enduring characteristics of personality traits are important as the moods and emotional content of managing. Also critical are the ethical values and attitudes that managers hold and apply to decisions. And also the role of culture is very important in shaping how managers see they should manage. And if you take a good look in your notes, you're also going to look at a definition of an ethical culture and how companies make ethical decisions framed by their cultures. Again, we're talking about attitudes, values, ethics, and culture. We are taking a look at the manager as a person. This particular part of our lecture is all about ethics and the dilemma that arises in any society. One problem that we as a society are facing today is repetitive motion injury, also known as RMI, caused by using the computer and other technology that is not ergonomically designed or used in a proper fashion. Many people nowadays are under a great pressure to do their job as fast as they can and do not always know what is the best way to prevent injury, or their company has failed to train people properly or to buy the right ergonomically structured equipment. Now, again, if some of you are working or have worked in the past, I'm sure you are familiar at least with some of these concepts. Now, this particular case creates very painful and often debilitating injuries in many organizations, both employees and managers, both for employees and for managers, although workers get the brunt of the trauma. Just before President Clinton left office, he introduced regulations to mandate an ergonomically sound workplace via regulations. In spring of 2002, President Bush resigned the order that made compliance voluntary on the part of business. Now we're also going to talk during our lecture, and again, if you look in your notes, you're going to see that we're going to talk about a manager as a decision maker. Because managers are in a position of power, sometimes they have to make decisions that at times might be popular, however, at times might not be so popular with the employees, with the people that work for them and with them. Downsizing has become an increasingly popular tool among employees for the last 20-25 years. Many millions have lost jobs unexpectedly. Now, maybe this is one of the reasons why you're taking this class, because you have been downsized, or maybe you are looking for a better position, a better job to at least try and secure your future. As the world changed with the advent of technology and globalization, the response of many companies was to cut their workforce. Some dislocated workers are employed in better jobs, but some have to work two jobs to get by and never replace the money or achieve the job status they once had. Or a lot of employees nowadays are what's called underemployed, meaning that they hold jobs that are overqualified for. Is the price of downsizing worth the cost? What decisions can managers make if they want to keep loyal people but must cut some of the jobs within what may be maybe a bloated bureaucracy? These are some things for you to think about, and some things we are going to discuss during our class. Now, also, we are going to talk during our class about the complex challenges a manager faces as a planner and a strategist, because I'm sure a lot of you are well aware of. A manager has to plan very well and to strategize and choose the best strategies for his or her companies. In this rapidly changing and fast paced world, trying to position the organization to be effective and cutting edge while maintaining the basic core of the organization's values and purposes are critical challenges for managers. A good planner and a good strategist has to at least keep up and hopefully outclass the competitors. Now, in an uncertain competitive environment, managers must engage in thorough planning to find a strategy or strategies that will allow them to compete with other companies effectively. We're going to explore both the manager's role as a planner and as a strategist, as I just said. We're going to discuss the different elements involved in the planning process, including the three major steps. Number one, determining an organization's mission and major goals, choosing strategies to realize the mission and goals, and number three, selecting the appropriate way of organizing resources to implement the strategies. We're also going to discuss scenario planning for what's called a SWOT analysis, important techniques that managers use to analyze their current situations. Now, another topic for our class is going to be what's called managing in a global environment or in an international environment. Think about this. The planet is getting smaller as we can go almost anywhere and have a drink, whatever drink is your favorite, and maybe a Big Mac while watching, let's say, The Price is Right on a television set. Again, we're going to look at the globalization of the planet and how it is changing daily, and not only how it is changing daily, but also how it has changed and it will continue to change our life. If organizations are to adapt to the global environment, which hopefully, if not a lot of them, most of them do because they need to survive, then their managers must learn to understand the global forces that operate in it and how these forces give rise to opportunities as well as threats. Now, I know threats is not a very nice, a very pleasant word. However, we need to be aware of all this happening in our global economy. We will examine why the global environment is becoming more open, more vibrant, and more competitive. We will always talk about how forces in the global task and general environment affect global organizations and their managers. Also, we're going to talk about the different ways in which organizations can expand internationally and impediments to the creation of an even more open global environment. You are going to have a case called Lexus and Olive Tree. In this particular case, in the Lexus and the Olive Tree, Thomas Friedman points out that the Lexus car is assembled by machines with the latest technology, while the wars in the Balkans and the Middle East go back over 1,000 years. So globalization has one foot in tomorrow and one in yesterday, if we can say that. Assessing where we are each day may be the greatest challenge of globalization. Now, another thing to consider is why the global environment is becoming more open and competitive, and why barriers of the global transfer of goods and services are falling, increasing the opportunities, complexities, and the challenges that managers face nowadays. We're also going to describe the way in which political and legal, economical, and sociocultural forces in the general environment can affect managers and the way in which global organizations operate. Now, even if you haven't given it a lot of thought, those particular forces, the law, the politics, the sociocultural forces, do affect the way we do business. They affect who do we do business with and how we make decisions. Now, think about something that has been going on for many years and has raised many questions and concerns. In this particular case, we can encompass all these ideas that we just talked about. The war in the Middle East has raised many questions and concerns and has affected and will continue to affect the global economy. The Arab world wants Palestine to be an independent nation at pre-1967 borders, while the Israelites appear to be in conflict about how to manage the situation except through force at this point. Negotiations on both sides have been often futile and leave many political, economical, religious, cultural, and social issues unaddressed and or unanswered. And again, this is just an example. However, it has become lately a big part of our life because again, it continues to affect us. Obviously, the stake in human life, the future of these nations and regions are at issue. But as with any global conflict these days, they have global economic impact. One issue to think about is trade with the Middle East, especially, think about it for a second, especially what? Especially oil. Saudi Arabia has been a good friend to the US in the region with its great oil reserves, but it is not happy with how the Israeli-Palestinian situation is proceeding. The conflict and other factors forced Congress to look more closely at the US oil dependency issue. And again, if you have followed the news, which I'm sure you have, you're very much aware of this situation. Now, should we drill in protected wilderness areas? Should we pass legislation to regulate the MPG of all cars? Should we continue to be so involved in global affairs? And if so, why? Again, these are some issues, some challenges that we are going to discuss during our class here, Introduction to Management. And I hope you're going to give it some thought. And if you follow your notes closely, you will see that we're also going to talk about different other issues. Let's see, again, the manager as a decision maker, and another example maybe how major players in the IT field turn their current problems into opportunities. It's another thing for you to think about. Those major players in the IT field could decide to go head to head with their global competitors. To do this, they might study their most successful competitors closely, or maybe more closely than they have done in the past, and use benchmarking to redefine their production processes. Now, again, this is not a new idea, and this is not an idea that can be applied only to the IT field. It's an idea that, again, hopefully, if not all businesses, the ones that want to succeed and that want to stay in business will follow. Again, study your competitors, study all your competitors. However, study more closely your most successful competitors and maybe see how you relate to them, maybe see why they're so successful, how you can relate to them, and how you can maybe learn from them and become successful or more successful yourself or your own company as an owner or as a manager. Now, this is the end of part two of our lecture, Introduction to Management. Stay tuned, and part number three of our lecture will be on the way.